So I decided to, hello? So I decided to go ahead and do it, and it's a 12-week recovery, and that's the major downside, and I'm gonna be absolutely nuts by the end of 12 weeks, because, you know, I kind of like to do stuff with my left hand.
All right, and he also can't play the piano. So Nancy is stepping in for us. Yay, here we go. You know, so anyway, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for being curious about our beautiful instrument that you're going to hear probably more than you thought you would hear about today. I'd like to introduce to you Brad Colby. Brad is the owner of Colby. You know what? I'm just going to let him tell you about it. He is the organ guy, and then we're going to go through a little presentation. I want to say hi to the people that are watching that asked me to stream it today, so you can turn around and wave at the people. Hey! So, Brad, take it away.
Are you on? Are you on?
I don't know. I project. I'm a large guy, so normally I project. So the microphone thing is new to me. But
Turn it on.
it's on. See, at least I'm projecting so well, you can't even tell that it's being amplified.
There you go.
I'm Brad Colby. I'm actually third generation organ builder. My grandfather got into the business after the war, and then
I'm going to stop him.
There are always glitches
Oh,
on
there
the
we
first
go.
time for anything.
There. Technology. Oh, start over. That's right, because we're being streamed. I'm Brad Colby. I'm president of R.A. Colby. I'm third generation organ builder, started by my grandfather. And I actually have a son that works in the business with us now. But it's been pretty neat throughout my life. I actually got to work projects with my grandfather and my father. And my son has had the same opportunity with my father, myself, and him. So it's pretty neat. Love what we do. I actually come from an aerospace engineering background. So, a long time ago, my girlfriend, now wife, I said, would you mind if I abandoned my desk job and went into the family business? And of course she says, no, that's great, honey, do what makes you happy. So I joined the organ business, and I'm sure she's had second thoughts along the way, but but no, we do love it. We travel all over the country. We build, primarily is where we started. We make organs. And then as the industry's evolved, as our companies evolve, we have moved into all facets, including maintaining, renovating, restoration. We've done cathedrals across the country. We did the U.S. Naval Academy. We have done touring organs that are throughout Europe now. We did Walt Disney's Hollywood studio organ on Hollywood Boulevard. So we've done a lot of really neat, unique projects that have culminated with us here today. But that's just a very brief little snippet about us and the company. We're in East Tennessee, Johnson City, so if you flip-flop Tennessee, we're where Memphis is on the other end of the state. We've got about 20 people. We have a branch office down in Florida as well, and we focus primarily in the southeast, but we do work throughout the country. So that's a little bit about me. Be glad to answer any questions about the company, us, what we do, where we do, at any time. I have made my contact information available to everybody. Reach out, text me, email, whatever. I'm easygoing guy. I'm, big, round, soft, cuddly fella, so I'm easy to get along with. But that's a little bit about us.
So anytime you're tempted to say, well, organ building is not rocket science, he's here to tell you it might be. Well, I can't say that I am a third generation organist, but I can say that when I was in 6th grade, I was telling my mom and my grandparents and my teachers that I don't want to do this. I want to go practice the organ. So, playing the organ is one of those things that grabs a hold of you and won't let go. And so I'm really delighted that you all are here today to participate in this presentation about what I might say is one of my very first loves, after dogs and all of the other little boy things that you might find. I've always, loved playing the organ, whether it be practicing or playing in church on Sunday morning. So I want to start with some basics and cover some basics that you need to know about the organ. And Brad and I are going to kind of play the game together so that you get the full force of all the information that you need about the organ. And so Brad started talking about the other side of Tennessee and then West Tennessee. And so I know that Tennessee has 3 grand divisions: Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, and West Tennessee. And our organ has 3 grand divisions: the swell, the grate, and the choir. And if you look around to the organ console, you see 3 keyboards. The top one is called the swell, the middle one is called the grate, and the bottom is called the choir. It really doesn't have anything. You might say, well, the choir is what you use to play when the choir is singing, and it's just a label, really, because you use everything all the time. The one thing that I might say is that the swell has shades that open and close to make the sound swell. Now, the choir, in this case, also has shades that make the sound swell, but in some European organs, the choir would not have shades. And we call that, when it has shades, we call it, that division is under expression. So in our organ, the swell and the choir are under expression. Now, I just lied to you because we have 3 grand divisions, but we also have a 4th division, which is the pedal. And the pedal organ on this organ, we have some things going on this organ that are really fantastic. You want an independent pedal. You don't want pedal sounds that are coming down from the keyboards. And we have a lot of things going on the pedal that are independent of the keyboards. And that's indicative of a complete installation, something that the pedal would speak even if you didn't have things from the manuals coupled down to the pedal. I can couple, we call it coupling, I can play the swell and the choir on the grate. So anytime you hear a hymn or something that's really big, there's a lot of divisions coupled together to make that sound. When you turn around and look at the pipes, you can roughly see the 3 grand divisions. The one on our left is the choir, the one in the middle is the grate, and the one on the right is the swell. And a lot of people ask me, do the pipes that we see work? And the answer is yes, they do. Those are principal pipes. In some foreign languages, they're called other things, but we take our principal pipes from the German principal pipes. The principal is the characteristic sound of the organ, sort of the foundation sound of the organ. It's a nice, solid, big sound. We have principals in all 3 divisions. Some of the principals are more German. Some of the principals are more English. And so that's another unique aspect of our instrument, a complete installation. It's your turn.
So I wanted to back up a little bit about what he was talking about with the expression. So unlike a piano where the harder you hit it, the louder the sound you get, the organ is, they just play, they're whistles, so it is one volume. So what we have to do to get that dynamic range is we have to have different characters of pipes, and then even on those characters of pipes, then we put them in boxes with blinds in front of them, basically, and then he can control the volume of the blinds so that when they're closed down, it's completely different than when they're opened up. And so if you hear him playing soft and meditative, the pipes are just doing their thing. They are going full out. So it's up to Jim to then control the volume through all the tabs he's pressing and how far he's got the box open and closed and how many things he's got going on. So the organ itself, you've got, this is basically one set of pipes, and you have 56, is that right?
I think, well, probably 56 sets of pipes, but we have some electronic things that make it bigger.
You've got a lot. It is roughly, 2/3 of the size of your chancel is the organ. You just see this one little set right here. So in there's all these different pipes, different sizes, shapes, materials, metals, all this stuff that he then controls to give you these different sounds through all the different keyboards and his feet that he's playing.
And we'll see that in the video. What we have coming up is, well, among organists, when organists get together, sometimes we have an organ crawl. And that means we all get to go up in the pipes and look around in the chambers and see the different kinds of pipes. I brought a pipe today. This is not from our organ. This is a spare that we have laying around. A lot of you have probably seen pipes before, but it might be valuable to know that at the end of the pipe is a hole, and the pipe sits on a hole and receives its breath from the chest underneath, so that when the air goes in, the pipe speaks. But if the pipe is whopper-jawed, or if that hole is not exactly right, or if it's leaning a little bit, or if this little mechanism right here, what's that called, the tongue?
The mouth.
The mouth,
Yeah.
the languid, the beard.
So just like a person, we've got the foot, the toe, the body, the mouth, these little guys sticking out are ears, and then it's got upper lips and lower lips, and that creates the mouth, and through the shape of that and how hard you blow it and all these sort of things creates the noise. There's emulative stops throughout the organ. Jim was talking about principles. When people talk about organ sound, principle is the only one that we take for ourselves that's just organ. Everything else is sort of emulative of orchestral things. So we have strings, which this may not look like a string, but when he's playing large groups of them, they have a very string-like character. We have flutes to emulate piccolos, things like that. And then we also have reeds, trumpets, oboes, things of that nature, which you guys have got some beautiful ones in your instrument. So we have all the orchestral families, plus our own unique organ tone.
And we do have some beautiful reeds and probably some of the most beautiful flutes I have ever laid ears on.
You've got one, which I hope we cover, that is just
we have a lot of things that are
my favorite.
Well, could you talk about the tuning mechanism just while you've got a hold of that?
Okay, since each pipe is either on or off, and that's all there is to it, every single pipe plays one note of the keyboard all the way up, okay? So because it's either on or off, every key has to have its own pipe. So as you look at the pipes that you can see, you'll see they stagger, and they're asymmetrical. So the one, as you're looking at them, the one on the right is taller than the one on the left. They go up the keyboard, C, C sharp, D, D sharp. They get smaller, they get skinnier as they go. And because we have to adjust them to be in tune, every single day, the temperature of the air, the humidity of the space, everything has to do with almost microscopic adjustments in the column of the air inside, the density of the air, the position of this little metal collar. Oh, this guy's on here. Little metal collar relative to the height of this little opening. So what we do when we go through tuning, twice a year typically, when we go from summer to winter, back from winter to summer, we have to go through and adjust the height of all these pipes. So think of like a trombone. Basically, that's what we do, but on real small steps. So we have technicians that go through by ear. Everything's done by ear, and they adjust the pitch of every pipe in the organ. And basically all we're doing is changing the length. Now when things sound too loud or too soft or, oh, that doesn't sound right, then we have to go into the process called voicing, which is where we'll go and we adjust the parameters, the relationships of the mouth, how much wind it gets, all this kind of stuff. Because just like if you were to blow in a whistle, the harder you blow, you get a different sound, a harsher sound, or not enough sound. Same sort of thing with pipes. And it's just all very small adjustments.
Tiny microscopic adjustments. And so when he said, ooh, that thing's stuck. Well, when you're tuning an organ, if you're sitting down here, what you hear is ooh, tap, 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 ooh, tap, 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 ooh. Microscopic adjustments. So if this thing is not moving easily in tiny little increments, then it really can't be tuned as easily, if at all. And so this might be oxidation. You know, the metal may just have sort of fused together in a way through oxidation. Whatever, it needs to be cleaned in order to be able to tune it. So and he's, as we said, microscopic. Everything in this is
Do we get to stop
finessed.
pipes?
So yeah, we'll see all the different kinds of pipes. I think that at this point, I'm going to start the video unless you have a question or a comment.
Oh, that's a great question. They're, the size of a pencil eraser. So, I mean, they are just tiny. They'll be skinnier than a pencil eraser, actually, the smallest one. The way that we talk about organs, we use a pitch. So we talk about the length, basically the pitch is the length of the biggest pipe in that group. So for example, these pipes on the back wall here, that's a 16-foot principle. That means the biggest pipe is 16 feet tall, and then they get smaller. Well, the smallest ones in your organ, I think you've got a half-foot cymbal. So the biggest pipe is 6 inches tall, and then they get smaller from there. And those are all the ones that we have the young guys with the really good ears that go in and tune those. But the smallest ones in your instrument are just, the smaller than a pencil. And then the biggest ones, we actually have bigger than that back inside the chamber.
Now, I might add to that that I don't think we're going to see the cymbal on here, the smallest pipes. Yep. I've never used it since I've been here because it can't be used. It's so out of tune, and so, it needs so much work, it cannot be used. And that's really unfortunate to have a part of the organ. I think it's a 4-rank cymbal. Yep. And so we've got 4 ranks right off the bat that I've never even turned on in public.
The largest is in this center room back there. They're back there. You've got a 32 reed, right?
Yeah, we got a 32-foot reed.
Which means that low C produces a sound that's 32 feet in length. I mean, just.
And we will see that.
Yep, big. Sounds like a motorboat.
Any other questions or comments before we turn on the video?
Yeah, no, they do. 64 is the biggest they do. And I only know of 2 that actually go all the way down to low C. Most of the time, because human hearing cuts off at I think it's 8 hertz. So a 64-foot, you don't even hear them, you feel them at that point, yeah.
The Chicago Theater used to have a 64-foot flue, and I've been in it.
In the 64?
I've been in it. They're so big that you can actually, a man could stand inside of it. So I didn't actually stand in it, but I could have. Are we ready? Let me see if I can remember how to do this. Now, the first thing I'll say is that, it's a magnificent instrument. But part of the magnificence is the wide variety of things that are up there. And as we go through this, we'll try to stop occasionally and show you some of the different styles of pipes that make different kinds of sounds. Some of this I've kind of forgotten, I'm kind of rusty on, so that's why we have Brad here.
Oh, it's putting me on the spot.
Yeah, can everybody see if you want to move to where you can really see better, that you could do that.
Yeah, and if I block you, I'll try to take a peek and then step back.
So can you tell me what we're looking at here, because we have these tuners right here are unusual. What are those?
So what you see here, just like this pipe, you'll see back here in the background, you see these, they look like sea worms. Those are all these pipes scattered around. This guy here in the middle is just like this, except he's got a partially closed top on him. And so you can think of all these things. The easiest way to think of a pipe is members of your choir. Okay, so imagine if you have members of the choir, all different shapes and sizes, all different lengths, and now imagine if you start treating their mouth in different ways. So if you start funneling some of their tones, what you'll get is you start restricting certain harmonic ranges. This is a flute, so it'll start getting this more poppy sort of, we call it a koppel flute, so it has sort of this poppy koppel sort of sound to it as he's playing. It'll be articulation throughout. And it's interesting that you can begin after you start to understand some of the theoretical bits behind it. You can look at things and imagine, oh, that's weird. If I had to talk through something, an inverted megaphone, what does that do to my voice, you know? And that's what this is. So the way to make these work, where this guy, I gotta break this thing free so that we can slide it. The way that this guy goes up and down, so he just slides up and down. Since this has got a very specific purpose, it actually has a felt lining on the inside of it. You can barely see it like on this guy right here. You've got red felt that's inside these things. Well, as that ages, just like any other fabric, I mean, these pipes are anywhere from probably, excuse me, probably 20 to 30 years old, up to you've got some stuff in your organ that's like 80 years old, some of the really good old stuff. Well, materials dry out. Imagine having a shirt that you've left hanging out for 50 years. You know, the fabric gets old and tired, starts to slip. Things don't tune as well as they used to, and that's just generally part of the maintenance. Well, if they don't stay in tune, it doesn't sound good, he doesn't play it, and then you've got this 50, 60, 70 rank instrument that now you're only playing half of it.
That's a really good point, because you'll see some examples in here, but I'll just go ahead and tell you now. If I can't use 3 of those pipes, I can't use any of it, the entire rank, because if I'm playing a melody and one note is either missing or way out of tune, I can't use that one. Now, I might be able to use it on a hymn if it's not too bad, or if I'm playing in certain keys that's not going to use that pipe. So those are the decisions that I've had to make for the last 4 years is, oh, I can't use this stop because I'm in the key of F and the B flat is wild, okay? As we move on, we have some different kinds of tuners. And I'm going to just giving you, this is a really great example right here of a super rank of pipes. But you see how this one is leaning over. I'm not sure what's going on with that pipe, but the bottom line is its toe is not on the place where the air comes in. And if it's just kind of scooted over a microscopic bit, and that pipe's not going to speak correctly, and it could make the entire rank unusable.
And something along those same lines, these are made out of metal, and they're soft metals. So this kind of, I don't know if you can see it, this funky pattern, it looks like polka dots. What this is lead and tin. And we use different metals, different quantities of lead and tin, just like the person. You know, if there's more lead and it's denser, you get a sort of a duller tone. Tin is lighter and brighter, and you get a louder tone. Well, all of that being aside, they're soft. I could right now just squeeze this and crush it. Well, as these things, they're tall and skinny. If they start to get off center, mechanically, you can actually have, and you've got some of this in your instrument, damage to the pipes. And I don't know if we show this or not through here, but if they get far enough, they'll just bend right over and break. So a lot of that stuff is stuff that we have to stop and correct as well.
And so we could have a number of things going on here. You see some of these pipes are just not lined up the way they should be. But we need to move on.
Yep, sorry.
No? So as we say, we're going on an organ crawl here. Here we have a reed pipe. Reed pipes are really fun because they have a little bit of a different mechanism that causes them to speak. I tried to find a reed pipe pipe to bring to you. But within this little shallot,
Shallot is one of the parts. So these are whistles. These are whistles. Reeds operate through an actual mechanical percussion. So there's a piece of brass, a reed, just like a reed instrument in an orchestra, if any of you took band. And I know everybody did, right? But the reed vibrates. And that all happens in here. So as air blows past that reed, it sets up this oscillation, just like blowing on a blade of grass or a piece of paper. And then all the rest of this amplifies the sound or changes the character, just like we saw in one of the other pipes. So that's how a reed works. There's a physical piece in there smacking together. And when I say physical, they're so tiny. Sorry.
so this bar right here is the way that we control the sound of the reed. And in some cases, there's another way to tune the reed. But generally, we don't tune the reed with this bar. We control the way that the reed vibrates. Am I close? Again, this is really fun because we have that business all over the place in the organ. There's another example of where a tuning scroll is taped. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that.
Where this thing, we can smack it up and down. On these guys, instead of having a piece of metal that you slide, you roll that up and down. Well, over time, if they're not rolled correctly or just get tired, they'll leak and blow around and you can never get it in tune. So what we've got are tape in several areas in an attempt to stabilize that tuning. So what we have to do is go through, actually cut those out, and solder in new scrolls to give it new life.
Again, if this pipe and one other pipe doesn't work, then I'm limited as to whether I can use any of those pipes. There's another example of the same thing going on. And you see that, this right here, you talk about tired, bless its little heart. And so more scrolls. Now, yeah. Well, yeah. Let me go back just a minute because these pipes with the felt, I think those are chimney flutes, aren't they?
Behind it?
Yeah.
It's either a chimney flute or board, I can't tell from.
Well, we'll have another example of that in a minute, I think. Now, I had them video this because you don't expect to see that in the organ. At least I don't. And so I talked about the 3 grand divisions in the pedal. Each one of these divisions has this. And I would say that while the pipes need a lot of work, and there's a lot of mechanical stuff going on, the main problem with the organ right now is that the electronics are not reliable. And that's why some of you may have been here when I'm like playing the prayer hymn, and all of a sudden the full organ comes on. And I mean, that's like heart attack time for me. Easter Sunday during the communion hymn. But you know, electronics fail over time.
Yeah.
They oxidize, they break. So
Organs are run by computers, just like everything else these days. And they're a little bit more reliable and they have a longer lifespan. But still, every single pipe, every single key, every single control has to translate from what Jen's playing to know which pipes to play.
So here we have a specific stop, and this might be C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, G, G sharp, and so on. Each note of each stop has a wire. If that wire fails, it's possible I won't be able to use any of that stop. And it goes on and on. This is just one of the 3 grand divisions. This is just one of the 3 divisions. So I don't know, did you expect to see this kind of thing going on up there? So here we are back to the organ crawl. This is the 16-foot reed. And so it's, Bill, did a great job of capturing this 16-foot reed. This is a bassoon, I think. And here we go. You can see it's leaning right there. It's kind of whopper-jawed. And it is 16 feet in length. Now, also there, at the end of that, we had some... Are we going to do anything about the mitered pipes on this project, or are we going to leave those alone?
No, they have to be supported, yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about mitered pipes, you can see those pipes, they come up, and then they curve over on themselves. And so that really doesn't do a lot to the sound of the pipe, but it is prone to lean even more because it's not balanced well. So that metal is likely to bend or be unstable. So we want to
Try not to talk a lot because I got warned about timelines.
So we want to try to straighten those out. Now this is really interesting. This is a major problem that we'll talk about a little bit more. Number one, we have a coffee cup over here. That's not really part of the. That's not part of the speech. That's not part of our liturgy. But here we have a pipe that's laid aside. And I could have Ken tell the stories about ciphers because he's had to go up there and fix them a time or two. But sometimes a pipe won't stop. I take my finger off of the key, I turn off the stop, but it still speaks. And that's because something in there is holding that pipe open. So the only solution is to go up and take the pipe out and lay it to one side. So when you do that, sometimes you hear some wind rushing out of the. That's because there are pipes that are not in their holes. So here's another example. I don't know what this stop is with the weird scroll. Yeah, it's a wooden flute. But here's an example. This pipe probably ciphered, and rather than take it out, they just took it out and set it so that it wouldn't be going into the hole. It won't speak. So if I'm playing a melody that needs that note, I can't use that stop. More electronics in the 3 grand divisions. Some wire that's not plugged in. Oh, this is fun. So, we have the star that makes a tinkling sound. That's one of the favorite parts of the organ. It's called a Zimbelstern. I think that's actually called a Glockenstern. And so the Zimbelstern, this is actually, little bells that you would buy at Pier 1. And it has a little striker here so that when the mechanism works, the bells spin around. No, the strikers spin around, and when they spin around, they fly out and hit the bells. We have 2 of these. Most people don't have one. But the problem is one of ours doesn't work because of the wires. I just had to unplug it. I mean, we've had an article and a sheet that Lisa's going to talk about if we have time, briefly. And yeah, I mean, we owe. This organ is maybe $1.5 million. Or upwards. And if we, it's a gift that could not be replaced unless the church burned down and we got the insurance.
And one of the things that Bob did for this particular instrument is because he loved it so much. Throughout our travels as organ builders, we always come across things. Bob has got some of the most amazing treasures in your instrument.
And we'll get to that in a minute. So that's the Glockenstern. The star doesn't have anything to do with the sound. These are mitered pipes that need to be straightened out. Those are mitered because in the organ, in the chamber that it previously was in, they wouldn't fit standing up straight. But here they would. So more examples of, sort of leaning pipes. I don't know whether these tuners need to be replaced, but they are kind of worn. And we'll see some examples that what I think might be animal damage, maybe a squirrel or a mouse. So the variety of pipes that we have, this is probably a gedect. The gedect is a style of flute that has a little articulation at the beginning, and ours is beautiful. The thing about a gedect is it has a stopper at the top. It's made out of wood, and the stopper is lined with leather. And when that leather dries out, it won't stay in tune because the stopper slides down. So just it won't stay in, microscopically adjusted. It won't stay in its place. If it slides down, then those pipes go out of tune. So those leathers will be replaced. These scratches, that don't really have anything to do with it. It has to do with the stopper. Here's another reed. And so you see the difference in size, a small one versus a great big one. And then mitered, more electronics. There's the cymbal stern. This pipe looks pretty new. It's in good shape. This is the animal damage. I don't know what's going on there, whether it's just dry and old, or if something tried to make a nest in there.
Yep, there was a couple of those.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got those all grouped together there. Now this, yeah, you want to talk about that? I'll give you a minute.
With this little guy here, this is my favorite stop in the whole world. Okay, so I'll try to tame my enthusiasm and just talk briefly about it. Each pipe is actually two pipes. So it's divided down the middle, and it will have a mouth like this on both sides. So if you pull it out of the hole, it's a mouth on both sides, and you tune both sides. These are extremely rare. It is the most beautiful, ethereal sound in the whole instrument. It's absolutely breathtaking. And very, very good.
And very expensive. It's called a Ludwig Tone. And the idea is that the pipe is out of tune on purpose. One side is a little bit sharp, and the other side is a little bit flat. And it makes kind of a vibrating or oscillating sound that is really appealing and unusual. And you can use it by itself, or you could use it with a flute or something else that would kind of make it a little bit bigger and really accentuate the out-of-tuneness. It is one of those treasures. These are chimney flutes. They look pretty good. They look pretty new. Those might be 25 years old. Yeah, and we also had some leaning pipes over there. I don't know whether you saw it or not. You can catch it on the video later online if you want to. These kind of the adjustments that are so important. Now here we have, oops, what's going on here? We've got empty holes.
Yeah.
And so we see the pipes that belong in those holes right over there. They've all been pulled out. I don't know what this is. That could be a mixture, but I can't really tell. But anyway, pulling pipes out is a really fundamental method of organ maintenance. You want to try to avoid it if you can.
Yeah. Again, that's that same style that we talked about.
Yeah, the Ludwig Tone. And more pipes laid to the side. The different shapes of pipes to make different sounds. These are kind of conical at the top. It's some kind of a conical flute. More reeds, more tape. That's just duct tape. It's a fundamental method of. This is our gedect. It's one of the most beautiful stops on the organ, one of the most beautiful stops you'll find anywhere. I love that stop. It's on the swell. Oh, this is the shades we talked about earlier. When they're open, the sound comes out. If we stopped the video, you could see the church through the shades. You could see the nave. And here we have the chimes. Those are the chimes. Yeah, those are the chimes. We use those twice a year, just like we use the Zimbelstern twice a year. And still more electronics. And finally, I think we go, I've never worn sandals to church before. I can't tie my shoes. I know I can't tie my shoes. This is another tall reed. What time is it? 15? Okay, we're going to go inside the console real quick. When we take the back off of the console, we see, each one of these buttons has a function. Each one has a wire. Each of those 3 pedals has many wires. We look inside the console, we see many computer cards, many relay, electronic components, relay cards. Each of those cards, again, corresponds to a stop, a particular key on the organ, shoots an electronic signal to a corresponding electronic component in the chamber and makes the pipe open. Lots of wires, lots of electronics, and also the reason why we get Easter during communion sometimes. There have been a couple of times when everything on the organ comes on suddenly. And so there you have it. That's the basic organ crawl. Now Mother Lisa has a short commentary about the project that we're embarking on.
So, Brad, are you going to be here? Are you going to stay for worship with us today? I'm going to embarrass him into it. So, after worship today, we have hospitality hour in the PLC, and maybe you could help answer some questions for us so that we can continue this conversation on, because I know we could spend hours on this. There's so much. And behind there is kind of like Narnia, right? You go behind the door, and there's a whole world. You can tell. It's huge. It's a huge spot with so much that you can't see. What we see are these beautiful pipes, but there's a whole world back there, a whole Narnia. And we are so grateful for Bob Capra. We are so grateful to have this instrument. We are blessed to have this. This is really, we have a gift that so many people don't have, that we have been enjoying for a really long time. And the challenge is that right now, we need to help it. We need to put the maintenance in that we needed to do along the way for many, many years. And so that's where we are right now. And it's a big lift. We are really lucky that we have received some money. Some people have been very, very generous. But you'll be hearing more that we'll be asking. We need to raise $350,000 we'd like to do that in the next 3 years. I will be passing out some flyers for you that tell about the history of the organ, and it's a very ambitious scale of giving on the back, and we realize that it's very ambitious, but it's just a place to start. So please, enjoy learning about the organ. Ask Brad some questions. Jim, I can't answer much about the organ other than I know it needs to be fixed. So thank you for coming, and I'm going to pass these things out to you.